Hey everybody, welcome back to Spiders Sound Off. This is Tom.
And this is Porter.
And today we are going to talk about the out-of-conference schedules. We mentioned last time we were going to wait for the A10 schedules to come out, but there's been a lot of talk about the men's out-of-conference schedule, and the women's schedule was just released kind of right when we were doing last week's podcast. So we're going to talk about both of those. But before we get into some of the highlights or lowlights, depending on your perspective, why does the out-of-conference schedule matter, Porter?
That's a great question. So for you Spider fans who are always thinking about getting an at-large bid, the out-of-conference schedule matters because it's your chance to really influence your net ranking in a way that positions you for an at-large once conference play starts. So what is the net, you ask? Well, if you guys recall, and if you've been a longtime Spider fan, we used to care about the RPI. The RPI was the tool that the NCAA used to kind of determine how good of a basketball team you were. And you've heard us mention in prior episodes, we've had, an RPI of 41 or 38, but usually in the top 50 of RPI, you were considered, a potential at-large candidate. And it's the same for the net. But the net has changed a little bit in terms of what they evaluate. They go based on kind of two core factors. One is called the Team Value Index, which it's a results-based feature that rewards teams for beating quality opponents, particularly away from home.
So it's kind of a strength of schedule is what kind of RPI.
Yeah, except for it's added an adjusted net efficiency rating. Now, they say that the margin of victory doesn't matter, but it does in that the computers are working behind the scenes to look at who you played, where you played them, and what you beat them by, and what kind of offensive efficiency you demonstrated and what kind of defensive efficiency you demonstrated.
And if I understand those metrics right, it's your scoring per possession efficiency and then holding teams scoring on defense.
That's right.
Per possession.
That's right. So, for example, a given efficiency, which is your net points per 100 possessions against a stronger opponent, rates higher than the same efficiency against a lesser opponent. So having a really good efficiency on the road rates higher than having the same efficiency at home. So what this means for our basketball OOC schedules is when you're playing somebody, and let's say it's a small conference team, maybe not a great team, let's call it VMI, for instance, you could be up 88 to 61, decide to bring in, players number 10 through 16 on your roster, and then all of a sudden the margin of victory gets cut to like 80 or 94 to 83, and your overall impact on the net rating is going to be hampered because of the score run up at the end. So when you're in the Robins Center, you have to be thinking about things like how efficient are we winning this game, as well as are we winning this game.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the hard part is I think you want coaches to prioritize winning.
You do.
And what does it take to win? And you could get distracted if I think you think too much about, how efficient are we in the moment during the game. But I think it's those games that you have in hand. What do you do in the last 2 minutes could be the difference between improving your net or harming your net.
Right. And it's what's interesting about it is we're in the Robins Center watching a game. We just want to win. And a lot of times we as fans want to see let's develop players 10 through 13 on the roster, right? So let's give them 10 meaningful minutes. But now you have to think about those 10 meaningful minutes have to result in a good efficiency number because, playing your bottom of your roster could end up hampering your chances for an at-large because the margin of victory gets cut, your defensive efficiency goes down, your offensive efficiency goes down. So it's just something to kind of keep in mind, folks. When we talk about you need to run up the score against some of these weaker teams, it's all about trying to game the net to get an at-large at the end of the year.
Yep. Okay, so let's get into these schedules. We're going to start with the women's schedule, just released last week. We talked a little bit about some of these games. They definitely have some marquee games. I just want to give some overall highlights. So if you look at last year's final net rankings, and we have 13 games, the average is 126. Okay. That's last year's net. If you look at our road, and that does not include the games at the Henrico facility. I'm not including that really neutral. If you just look at all of our other road or neutral games, it's 77. So that's pretty strong.
Yeah, very strong.
If you look at what's in the Robins Center, it's 175. Points to the home games, the weaker opponents. If you look at the entire slate, 7 of the teams went to the NCAA tournament last year.
That's really good.
4 of them won at least one game in the tournament.
Wow.
And also 2 NIT teams. So that's pretty impressive. 8 of the 13 were in the top 100 net and 2 in the top 10. Again, that's last year's net. Teams change. You know, the portal changes things a lot, but it's a super impressive schedule. So the way our season starts, we have a home game to open at Mount St. Mary's. That's a team we should beat by a lot.
Yeah, that's in the Robinson Center. It's also the home opener, so hopefully we can get a big crowd out. When we talk about getting a crowd out to support the ladies, you know, it helps the ladies play. The bigger the crowd last year, the better the result. I saw that.
Now, we open at home, and then a few days later, we're at Texas to play what's going to be a top 5 team. This is a team that's going into this season with a goal to win a national championship.
Yeah.
They have one of the best players in the country. We got to see Madison Booker in the Robinson Center last year. The game, it looked close if you look at the score. We lost by 11, but we were down by 17 after the third.
Yeah.
We made a little run in the fourth to tighten it, but we got beat pretty handily. And Madison Booker was the highlight. He can really do everything. She's going to be a WNBA draft pick next year and a high one.
They have size inside, and if I remember from last year's game, we got in a little bit of foul trouble, and that, you know, when you get in foul trouble against a team like Texas and you end up having to, you know, potentially sit down some of your better players, it leads to disparate outcomes, and I think that kind of happened to some degree.
Yeah, and we're a team that likes to play fast, but we had 24 turnovers in the Texas game last year. Like, that was fast and sloppy. We only scored 54 points in that game. We averaged 75 points per game for the season. So it shows you that that's a defensive team, not just Madison Booker who can score.
Yeah, Texas is going to be a tough game, and it's at Texas this year. They'll have a big crowd.
And they did not lose at home last season.
Yeah, so that's going to be a tough one. But it also, I mean, it's why you have to play these games tight too, because like there's other things going on under the covers when you play a team like Texas, because if you hold them tight, right, both offensively and defensively, you know, you could improve your net dramatically even in a loss. So you just gotta you gotta play a good game against Texas.
William & Mary's interesting. Last year they didn't really have a great year, and then they made a run in the CAA tournament.
Yeah,
went to the first 4 game and won the first 4 games. So.
Yeah.
That's kind of an emerging program. Columbia, we played at the Henrico Center last year, right?
Yeah.
And they're a really strong team.
You heard me mention Riley Weiss in the last episode, and she's going to be back for Columbia.
Then we go to Cancun. Porter and I have not decided yet if we're going to Cancun yet.
Anybody want to sponsor Spider Sound Off and send us to Cancun? We'll be happy to.
Cancun,
to
we're playing TCU, which was an Elite 8 team last year.
Here's a hot take for you, Tom.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you right now, and this I'm going to say this, and I'm the only person right now I think that's going to say this, because Texas is, I think, preseason number 4. TCU will end up higher ranked than Texas this year.
You want to bet on that, or is that just a hot take?
I think that's our next bet, because I think they're going to finish with a higher net ranking and a better NCAA tournament seed than Texas.
Okay. So the reason that won't happen, I mean, it could, but the reason it wouldn't happen is that, like, TCU, their 3 best players moved on, basically were out of eligibility. So it wasn't a portal transfer issue. It was just they had seniors or graduate students that led their team last year. They brought in a bunch of great transfers. So Olivia Miles, who's from Notre Dame.
A lot of people think Olivia is a top 3 pick in the WNBA next year. She comes from Notre Dame. So that's a super good pickup for them.
I mentioned Veronica Sheffy, who's a star from San Diego State. They also brought in a couple 6'7" centers.
They got size inside. They got great guard play.
So they're gonna be really good. But again, they got a whole new team they're putting together, which has risk to it. For sure. But TCU is in Cancun. We also play Green Bay, and that's not Brett Favre's Green Bay. It's a Green Bay team that's really good. They had a really good year last year. So that's a tough game as well in Cancun. I doubt Porter and I will be there, but we like to pretend.
If somebody wants to sponsor us again, we'd be happy to report live for you from Cancun.
One thing interesting with the schedule is that December 3rd, we're going to have an Atlantic 10 game at home. It hasn't been determined yet, so the Atlantic 10, at some point in the next 2 to 3 weeks, is going to announce the dates of all the Atlantic 10 games. So the women's team is actually going to have a home game. I'm not sure what's driving that. Maybe everyone's having a game in December to try to hype up the A10 season. But that's interesting that we've got a game kind of in December in the Atlantic 10.
And then 4 days later, you turn around and play Fairfield. You guys heard us talk about Fairfield on a prior episode. Probably one of the best mid-major programs in America. Fairfield's always tough. They've got a couple new recruits coming in this year, a couple new transfers. They got a girl from overseas with some size and a guard that they picked up. So Fairfield will give us a challenge. So if you want to come out and see a great home game, watch Spiders play Fairfield. That's going to be a tough one.
And the one thing I'll say is that we have 4 home games before the Fairfield being our 4th home game. You need to go to one of those before you go to the December 16th home game. Last year, the first game I went to, Porter kept telling me I needed to go. I finally went, and it was Education Day, which was where December 16th we played Bethune-Cookman.
Bring your earplugs.
And the place is filled with screaming kids. I thought it was going to be a nice game where you could hear the referees, you hear the squeak of the shoes, you hear the players talking, which you can hear at some of these games, but that was one where it was deafening loud. So I'm not saying don't go to December 16th, but don't let that be your first
I tell
game.
you, though, the girls, our ladies feed off of the kids screaming in the Robbins Center because they play really, really well when there's 5,000 people there making a lot of noise.
And then we end the at a conference schedule with the...
Don't skip over Liberty, though. Liberty in Lynchburg on December 13th is going to be a tough game. Liberty really, they made the tournament last year. They're always a tough team, and they just changed their coach from their coach who had been there for a long time to one of their star assistants. They're going to be it's going to be a tough game, so don't overlook Liberty. That's a really good matchup.
Yep. And we do end in December. There's a holiday tournament in the Henrico Center, same place where the Atlantic 10 tournament is, and I think that's part of the attraction, like getting the women out there on that court playing some games, so we can hopefully take that as an advantage when the tournament comes, because it's just a different environment, different baskets. The quality there at Alabama A&M is a team we should beat by a lot. We play Penn State, obviously a Power 4 school. That's a rebuilding program, so we'll see what they're able to put together this year. It's hard to know how good they'll be. I mean, they weren't good last year, but they're bringing in a lot of new talent. I think their coach is in their 2nd year there.
Some international players coming into Penn State this year, too.
But those are afternoon games during the holiday, so if you're in town, it's a great experience. Porter, do you remember what the tickets were like last year? They can't be too bad.
Like $10 or $20 to go up and watch them in the Henrico Center. Great seats. It's a small kind of venue, but it's loud and it's a lot of fun to go up there for a game.
So Porter, we're going to get into the men's schedule, but I just want to put this in your head for you to think about. So the women have 13 games. They got a really tough schedule.
Yeah.
The men have 13 games. We'll talk about their schedule. It's not nearly as tough as the women's schedule. I'm going to ask you later which team's going to win more of those out-of-conference games.
That's a really good question.
Okay, well, we're going to move to the men. So this schedule's been out for a while. If you've been on the message board, there's been a lot of chatter about this schedule. In the grand scheme of things, we don't have a Power 4 team on our schedule.
Yeah, John O'Connor wrote an article about that in the Times-Dispatch.
And so I think, understandably so, there's a lot of disappointment in that. I think we've tried to hype that there are 9 home games, so that's a huge number. I think the women have 5. Mm-hmm. So while the women is certainly a great deal, even though you're only getting 5 games because the season tickets are $50 or $60, the men's team does have 9, but the top team they're playing at home is Southern Illinois. When I talk about the men's team, this was not available for the women's. There is a ranking service. It's called the Bart Torvik. You can find it online. It's a ranking service that right now has a preseason ranking just for the men's. They look at, it's really an efficiency ranking, similar to what Porter talked about before. It does include all the new rosters on the men's team. So it's trying to predict based on last year's scoring for players that move from team to team, what will they score this year, try to get to then offensive and defensive efficiency to then get to their T rank is kind of the ranking that they use. So when I talk about the men's team, Southern Illinois has got this T rank. If you look across the NCAAs, they're ranked 140. Mm-hmm. The best team we could play, and it's not even certain when we're in the tournament in Orlando, Illinois State is on the other side of the bracket. Right now they're 99. So if we will play Furman, who's probably our second best team, they're ranked 124. We'll play them. Again, this is preseason using this T ranking. So Furman at 124, we win that, and assuming Illinois State beats Charlotte, Charlotte's in the 200s, then in theory we'd be playing a top 100 team in a neutral site. But those are kind of the highlights. The other top team that we'll play that could end up at 100 is Belmont. We're on the road.
Yeah, Belmont's always tough.
So they're always tough. They're 110 in this.
One of our guys went to
team
Belmont too, right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
did
we
someone
did.
go to Belmont?
We did.
Anyway, other games that we have here, and I'm not calling these highlights, but we play Old Dominion at home. They're 176. Old Dominion always has caused us trouble. Even when we've been a great team and they've been a poor team, they seem to always have more size than us. They're always a great rebounding team, no matter who their coach is. So Old Dominion's probably our toughest home game. We play William & Mary at home. They're 178. So, again, there is disappointment when you look at the schedule because we don't have kind of marquee names on the road. And you can look at the A10 and see teams that do have that. So I want to talk a little bit about the A10. So what I did is I took these Bardovic rankings for all the teams that have announced their out-of-conference schedule. And it's every team but Davidson right now that's announced. So they must be working on a final game. They haven't been able to put it together yet. And I went through and said, what's the average T-score from this Bardovic ranking? So we are 7th out of these 13 A10 teams at an average of 203. So the average team we play, and this is including that Illinois State game, so I'm assuming we get that 99, 203.
So what you're saying is the whole A10 is having a hard time scheduling.
Yeah, well, so what's interesting is, so the best is Dayton, but they're at 170, okay?
Yeah.
They have 6 top 100 teams. So there's a strategy that certainly Dayton is doing. VCU is another. I mean, VCU is 196, so not that different than us, but they have 5 top 100 teams. So what these teams are doing is they are getting those top 100 teams, and then they are playing some of the worst teams in college basketball.
I got you. So they're beating up on the 300.
So if you look at VCU's schedule, they have a bunch of 4 or 5 teams that are over 300 in this preseason ranking. That goes both ways. I mean, I think we know, and we've seen it in our past. We talked about the Kansas episode. You play those top teams, you have a chance for a marquee win that both helps your net, but it's also at the end of the season, people are looking at for those marquee wins in quad 1, quad 2. Who did you beat? So you got to have those opportunities to have those wins. There is risk that you lose to one of these 330 ranked teams that your chances are done.
Hopefully not.
Well, I hope with VCU.
Yeah.
I'll let VCU win 2 of their top 500 and then lose 2 to the 300.
Well, but
teams.
even like with VCU, what we want is VCU to be really good in the non-conference schedule so that like they help the A10.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
they help the A10, and then we can beat them in the conference schedule.
But we'd both be happy if there were 5 other teams that were top 50 in the A10.
Yeah.
And VCU was not one of them.
Right. Right. I mean, VCU, like whoever it is, like you want to root for the A10 teams in the OOC because, like, if everybody in the A10 wins every game, you get in the OOC. It almost doesn't matter if you go 500 because everybody's really, really highly ranked. But when you start losing to bad teams, you end up dragging the whole conference down.
So looking at the conference, Fordham, they're 13 out of 13. Their average team has a 287.
Excellent
ranking.
So they're playing the Citadel, they're playing Gardner-Webb, teams like that.
Not like teams that we're playing?
Well, we are, but we only playing 2 of them. They're probably playing like 6, 7 of them.
I'll just give you kind of the top 3. Dayton, I said, was 170. LaSalle at 183 and George Mason at 186. I'll say St. Louis just because they're 187. So those are the ones with the best average ranking. George Mason only has 1 top 100 team, so they're similar to us in that regard. St. Bonaventure, surprisingly, they only have 1 top 100 team, and they're at 217 is their average. So as much as I may brag about what Woj has done to help that program, scheduling has not been a big part of it.
Yeah, we won't go through our win or loss predictions just yet because honestly, there's two different data points that I use that are not out yet. Team rankings is one, and KenPom is the other. Once I see what kind of those 2 projection services rank, our chances as, then I'll have the ability to comment more on, are we going to win 11 of the 13? Are we going to win 13 of the 13?
No, I'm going to make you make a call right now.
Oh, you're going to make me make the call now.
But before we do that, let me just talk about the A10 across the Bardovic ranking. Like, where do they have the A10? So first, Richmond, they have us at 129. Last year, I think we were 253 in
much
the
better.
net.
Much better.
So they have us at 129.
Which we've talked about. We're going to be a better team.
And that has us at 9th.
But that ranking also kind of assumes that Jaden Daughtry is ready to go.
Well, every team's got things like that. So anyway, they got VCU first at 51. George Washington second. George Washington has, I think, there's a bunch of different rankings out there, but some of the rankings have them with the best transfer class of the A10. So they're really hoping on a bunch of new players. Dayton 3 at 77, then St. Louis, Loyola, George Mason, and that ends who's in the top 100. So that's 6 teams in the top 100. St. Joe's at 101, so they're almost in the top 100. Last year we had 5 in the top 100 at the end of the net.
Okay.
So in theory, it's improved. Again, this is just a ranking system. We're not at the net yet, and that takes a while to really be valid when you get kind of into real game action. But there's some encouragement here. When you look at the teams that were in the top 100 last year, it's the Bonnies that they have dropping to 136. They were a top 100 team last year. So we're going to spend more time as we get towards the season to talking about our the opponents in the A10 and what's happened with transfers in and out. We'll have an A10 preview at some point. One thing I knew you'd like, Porter, I mentioned George Washington, this move to 60, and their recruiting class is top 10 in the country when you look at their transfers, and that's using your box plus minus BPM stat. So I saw that somewhere. I know.
Love it. Thank you for building off my BPM love.
So let's just put it here. If George Washington ends up being a disaster, then preseason BPM is probably
not a strong predictive factor.
Not all that value. So anyway, what I thought we'd do is, again, maybe we don't have to do total wins, but out of the women's 13 out of conference,
yes,
versus the men, who has more wins in that out of conference?
I think the women are going to win more than the men. I think the women are going to go 10-3 in their OOC, and I think the men are going to go 9-4. That's my prediction.
Okay, so close.
Yeah, it's going to be close, but it's going to be 10-3 versus 9-4.
I'd take the other side. I think the men are more. The men are in the 10 or 11 wins. And maybe just mainly because of my Def Leppard inspiration, I think that's going to carry them forward. I think the women's are going to have a little more difficulty figuring out, outside of the core 3 from last year, who are all the other contributors. So I think they'll have a slower start, but I think if they go through these 13, 8-5, I still think they'll have a strong net because their schedule is that tough, and they can go into the A10 and. If they go 17-1 in the A10, I don't know.
TCU
they won't have a problem.
TCU and Texas are going to be tough games, and there's some really good teams on there with Liberty and Fairfield, but I don't think we're going to drop more than one more other than TCU Texas.
I think I wish on the ladies' schedule, to be more optimistic that they had some of these like Liberty and Columbia. William and Mary at home. Those are probably some. They got Fairfield at home. They're a tough game, but I think all their other home games. I don't know much about Temple. See how strong they are. We got them at home, but I
remember those lady team when they win by 40 a lot of times. So it can be a dominant performance, and so it'd be hard pressed for me to. You could convince me one of the other teams will beat us, but I don't think you're going to convince me two other than Texas and TCU.
Okay, well I think that's it. Anything else you want to talk about, Porter?
Aiden Noyes went to Belmont.
He went to Belmont.
Yeah, so
I forgot about Aiden. Is he still there?
He's
probably
there.
A senior.
No,
is he a senior?
Yeah, he's playing on Belmont's roster this year. I think he actually.
Played them. We've played.
We did.
Him,
yeah.
Yeah. He didn't do a whole lot.
No, I don't think he did a lot of business against us, but he was athletic as can be.
Yes, he had one great dunk that was on SportsCenter. This has been hopefully fun for you. It's been fun for us talking about the schedule, whether you are happy about the schedule or don't like the schedule. It's still fun to talk about. And we'll be back in a week with more stories about the University of Richmond. Until then, this is Tom.
And this is Porter.
And this is Spiders sounding off.
See ya!